recording on OBS. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez, joining you in front of a greenhouse on a chair that I half own in a house that's still not mine. We'll try to fix that. Joining me tonight, what did I write down? The reason for 92% of the flat tires at the work parking lot, it's Robert Wyatt.
I told those people, if you stay out of my parking spot, bad things won't happen. They don't listen. So I'm just saying.
He's got the Ace hardware pack of just screws, just hard wood screws, just dropping them on the ground, just do.
No, the trick is what you do is when nobody's looking. So the tires are like this, and then you take the wood screw and you just angle it up so that when they roll back out of their spot, it goes in.
Yeah,
that's what we call stealth.
I need a good description of where the actual sidewall begins, because I had a flat, and the old GLI tells me every time I have a flat or lost pressure or whatever, and it tells me exactly the tire. And so I go in there and I was like, I'm losing pressure every day. They go pull it off and they go, it's in the sidewall. And then they send me a picture and it's just like, well, it's like on the outer third of the tire tread. Like, is that the sidewall? Is that officially the sidewall? And so I know they want to sell me a $200 tire.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Like these small street tires, those things, I'm sort of convinced it's become a racket because, I mean, it basically, you ever get a pop in it, it feels like you always just have to replace it. I mean, that's it. You can never fix a pop, but like you have your truck tire. I mean, trucks have so much tread on the damn thing that it's super easy just to go and repair it and move on.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going like, what the cuss is this? He can't talk yet because he hasn't been introduced. Also joining us tonight, he has now changed his story. There has never been anything wrong with USPSA as an organization. It's Andy Erikson.
False, 100%.
He's still spitting the truth. Unlike, I don't know if you guys have been fresh on the Sig news, but anyway, so this is kind of like it's like the roles have been reversed. Like this is the part at the end of Act 2 where we realize people have traded teams, and that has been the Sig Armorer guy who he makes the Sig disconnector. So like the part of the Sig that decided that it was so shoddily put together that it could fire out of batteries, and then so all these Sigs were blowing up. Like they're just blowing up the frames, the sides of the guns are flying off, whatever. And then, people over at like Gray Guns, like Bruce Gray, would sit there and they'd go, it's just bad ammo. Nothing's effing wrong with this pistol. It's a fine pistol. Bad ammo, use their error. So Sig Armorer, he's like, I'm going to start releasing parts that'll fix the Sig problem. We think we got it nailed. We're going to do that. So then he goes off and he says, I'm going to release this video. It takes a couple weeks. And then I watched his 40-minute video on Friday evening. I was out getting Panda Express on my lunch break. And then he's talking about, I'm like, yeah, okay, this sounds good. He's talking about like the drop problem. And then when they corrected the drop problem, that brought in issues with the firing out of battery and blowing up and all that jazz. And then he's like, oh, the quality control on the old P320s wasn't that good. I saw them literally drilling the takedown ports with a hand drills through jigs, like 3 people just sitting on buckets just drilling through to make these Sig P320s. And he's like, oh, well, and then I visited them and I talked to them. I told my issues and they showed me, the truth way about it. And he's very calculated in what he's saying. Like he's saying like, oh, there was a problem. Obviously there's been problems with the Sigs before, but it does not, he's like, but there is no problem with the gun going off. But he's not putting that like in a time frame. So it's just like, most likely everybody's figured it out now. And the last thing everyone wants to do is actually say something. So he comes out at the end of the video and is like, a startle response when someone, has the gun go off is they put their hands up like this. And so they think that they might not have discharged the gun or had their finger in the trigger when they discharged the gun. And, Safariland has these big openings on these holsters because of the batteries. And so stuff falls in there and can be jingled in there. And then the gun goes off. And, a lot of these, like with the police officers, who get shot themselves or the guns go off, they want to protect their jobs. And so that's why when they accidentally set the gun off, they're adamant that it wasn't the gun. I mean, that it wasn't them, that it was the gun. And, the Sig P320, the end of the video is pretty much like the synopsis is The P320 is a safe and perfect pistol, and these people are kind of lying. And so, like,
So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
So
I was gonna say, so two things on this, right? So two things. Number one, I want to see how much his luggage weighed when he flew out to SIG, and how much it weighed when he came back with all the money that they stuffed into his luggage to get him to say that shit.
I think it's the actual opposite, which is, his whole entire profession is being certified by SIG and working on SIG pistols, and coming up with parts. You know, he's got that.
Okay,
SIG,
then it still can apply. How
Yeah.
much more it weighed when they gave him the reams of paper they were going to sue him with?
Correct. Yeah, it's either as the old Pablo Escobar, businessman of the 20th century, the 80s.
Good man, real philanthropist.
Do you want the gold or do you want lead? Like, which one would you want? And this is kind of what happened. Now we go over to the other side of the table, which is a guy who has some gold already, which is Bruce Gray. And so Bruce Gray of Gray Guns, who has been literally like the best wingman for Sig Sauer during this entire event for like 2-3 years. 3 years, like with the guns blowing up, which was an ammo problem, and the Sig P320 is safe, and this would never happen to such a gentle and beautiful handgun as a Sig P320. 2 days ago, so today's the 31st of the 29th of May, from Gray Guns on Instagram, the SIG P320 safety warning confirmed, risk of incorrect internal part configuration. And they put out a video, but the synopsis is that if the gun has a 10 millimeter 45, or essentially what would be considered like the large frame safety takedown lever, and something in that safety takedown lever, or there's something on with another part, will cause the sear perching, so the sear sets higher. I mean, the striker sits higher on the sear, and so there's not enough engagement there. And, it turns out that this can be replicated, and the guns can be caused to discharge and go off.
Doesn't it just feel like 2020 or 2021 when they came out and they said, oh, the COVID vaccine is 100% effective?
Well,
and then about 6 months later, they said 90%, 80%, 60%. And now it's like, well, actually, we're just removing from the schedules because it doesn't actually work at all.
Well,
functionally, that's what SIG is doing.
This is the hey, we're right, and everyone else is an idiot, and it's all conspiracies. Like the one thing. There's that old like Chase Hughes guy. He's fun to follow on YouTube when he talks about like psyops and all that stuff. It's like this is the kind of the shit that what this is. This is like, we're just gonna tell you you're crazy. And having experienced the most crazy people in the world will tell you you're hard to work with and you're the one that's crazy. Like it's like I've never met an asshole in my life that you haven't sat down across from and had a serious argument that turns into like, you're the crazy one. Did you know that you're the crazy one? It's just like, you seem like very hard to work with, and like everything is like gaslighting and I'm crazy. I'm destroying the organization. I'm destroying like, it's just like whatever it is, that's what they get. And SIG just for literally it ends today. The whole thing is like, no. All these lawsuits, it's because you're crazy. But the same thing with these people that shows you that they're not complete, like where the cognitive dissonance hasn't reached like such a peak. They're the same people who go over to like the New Hampshire state, this New Hampshire Senate, the state Senate, and goes like, we kind of need to be immune from like all lawsuits. So just we've never done anything wrong, and everyone who calls us is crazy. Also, if people find illicit material on my PC that's illegal, I just need immunity from that. But it's never happened. I'm just saying I need immunity from that as soon as possible, and everyone's hard to work with, and it's their fault.
I mean, that's straight out of the last 4 years, Fauci did nothing wrong, but we're going to give him blanket immunity.
Correct.
Hunter did nothing wrong, but we're going to give him blanket immunity. Sig Sauer did nothing wrong, but we're going to give him blanket immunity.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, everybody knows something is going on with SIG. Okay? I mean, this has been going on since like the 2017s when they were saying when they were not drop safe, and like Sig's, oh well, we fixed that. Well, good for you. I'm glad you fixed it. And now this other issue comes out and says, hey, these things are going off accidentally. And remember at the time, Sig's like, they're not going off. And then the entire world's like, yeah, actually they are. And they're like, oh, we're just gonna low key go and like upgrade.
Show me a video. I want to see that video. Show me that video where that actually happened, where someone's gun went off without touching it.
Yeah,
there you go.
Hey,
wait, not that video.
Listen. As a Navy SEAL who cashes checks,
which one?
As a Navy SEAL who cashes checks, and shields hard as I possibly can, until I see the video where the gun goes off. Like, please, like, remember. Okay, if you feel like you are defending somebody and you kind of got that little hint in you, is like, dude, there's something could be wrong there, but they're good business partners or they're a good person to be with, and like, they're okay 80% of the time. Let me tell you what happens. As soon as you make the definitive sentence like that, 3 weeks from now, your life is going to be tossed upside down. So now when they actually have the, until this thing is on video and can be duplicated, I'm not changing my mind. This is the greatest product that's ever been released. 3 weeks later, hey, it's on video and it can be duplicated.
Well, that's just awkward.
Can we delete that video off of YouTube and remove it from everyone's memory, please?
The thing where they went wrong wasn't so much obviously it's been going wrong since it wasn't drop safe. The first videos like 7 years ago or whatever, however long ago that was, where people were dropping them and they were going off. I mean, that was one thing. And then they had the voluntary upgrade program for your trigger, where it's not a recall, it's a voluntary upgrade. We're going to make your trigger better. It doesn't actually click anymore when you dry fire it. Around. So it's, if we didn't change it, we're upgrading it. Where they went wrong was it ends today. If they would have just shut up and just kept status quo, like trying to protect the government contract or however they're trying to play this legally to cover their ass, because that's what it all feels like. But like if they admit wrongdoing at this point, they're screwed. They are completely screwed. And so we're just going to, change the manual on the sly. Like, hey, don't load this if you're going to carry it in a holster,
but everybody
whatever.
Does that. Everybody does that.
Well,
that's totally straight up.
The funny thing is it's just like if they knew that it was like a takedown lever and another part, this is what they could have done. They could have just been like, hey, everybody, we had a bad batch of takedown levers that go out there, and from like this thing to this thing, we want you to, because like these things are breaking or whatever like that, just send your gun and we'll replace the takedown lever. Like, they could have done something like that. But then a lot of people would have sat there and went, like, must have something to do with the takedown lever. Let's go test them and see whatever. But yeah, like the whole entire like shield marketplace that went all on this. And the other part about like the signal thing of like, you would say like if something's wrong, like let's say like, well, maybe if everyone was having the same experience and everyone was just like poor or bad at safe gun and were terrible at gun handling, and then but you would see that across multiple pistols. You'd see like, oh man, the CZ75 Shadow 2 has a uncommanded discharge problem. My Glock 17 has an uncommanded discharge problem. Andy's Taxport has an uncommanded discharge problem. Like whatever the variation of guns that were put out there in the marketplace, you would see if it was like a social contagion or something like that, or like a conspiracy, like you would see it going off there. But what did the signal show? The signal showed the experience with the Sig P320, and the videos coming out of like guns going off and people shooting was Sig P320. Now, if we hated Sig and we're just gun hating, like just like you would see P365s. Like P365s are like the most popular concealed carry gun in the U.S. market. We would have seen people like with one testicles and like, thank goodness it was only 2.5 inches long hard because the bullet missed the tip by literally an inch. And it was like you would see stuff like that, but we didn't see anything in the signal with other Sig products. Like my P220, my P3 SP 2022, they're in there. They're safe. I'd carry those every single day. I wish I lived 20 years in the past so that 45 caliber would be cheaper and I could shoot iron sights in 45 caliber with the Sig P220 and everything would be great. That's what you would see. But this is the problem with people who want to call you crazy. The signal goes to them, and then they go, By the way, never happened. Conspiracy theory. Also, everyone who's bought a Sig P320 or gotten this vaccine or like yells at people to wear a mask,
Get a booster. Just get your booster.
get your booster. When all those people, and what they do is they go like, oh, by the way, you're right, and we're the smart ones. Please shame and tell everybody else that they're crazy and that they're wrong. And the worst mistake people ever did over the past 5 years, and the Sig P320 people did, was when they sat there and they said, "I'm going on this team and I'm talking shit about these other people." Now, like, I have a lot of respect. I would say this: it looks better, but it doesn't look that great. Like, you have guys like, people who shoot for Team Sig. I never saw those people that shot for Team Sig, at least the couple that I follow, sit there and go, it's perfectly fine, it's safe, there's nothing wrong here. They just shot the guns. Now,
of course not.
But they could have been like, they could have done the whole like GBRS group thing and sat there on YouTube and just until I see this stuff, not, if they knew something, they should have said something. Sure, absolutely. Every one of those guys is completely employable by a reputable gun company. Daniel Horner will find a job till he's 70 years old and cannot shoot anymore. But, at least they didn't sit there, at least I didn't see them go, it's absolutely 100% safe. They just were quiet. So.
No, they were just, Daniel didn't say anything. Lena never said anything.
Max,
I think there was Max didn't say anything. And I think, wasn't there a new P320 that came out? I remember seeing Daniel Horner doing a video around it. And then there was a new version, some raced up one, or maybe that was Max. I don't recall.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, if they would have just from the beginning, oh, you know what? There's a problem. Our bad. We're going to fix it. We would not be talking about this 10 years later.
And especially if it's a $30 takedown, not even a $30. That part's probably a cast part, or it's probably even mimmed. It's probably
$15, maybe.
Maybe it's a $15 part. If they would have sat there and said from this range to this range, and they could have said it something like, we are going to either send you one, and we're going to send all our armorers all around the United States. We're going to flood them with these parts. Please take yours in, get it filled, or send it back to Sig Sauer, and we'll voluntarily upgrade this stuff, or do what Ruger used to do. Ruger would have these things like their SR9 back in the day when they brought that pistol out. Some of them would had problems drop firing, and so you could hit yours on the back with a mallet, and sometimes they would go off or whatever. But Ruger had a very small signal. They said ship it back. They paid for the call tag, they ship back, and they sent it back with a free magazine. If Sig had done that, the good faith in Sig products would have gone up. But now what Sig has done is they've ruined the reputation of the Sig P320. But not only that, is because they've handled it so poorly, they've now decided to ruin the reputation of every other product that they have. And now they've caused the problem that's F Sig Sauer. I will buy an old P226. I'm not buying any new product for a long time. If I got $2,500 to spend on a rifle, I'm going to go get a Geissele Super Duty. I'm not buying a Sig Spear LT. I'm not doing that stuff anymore with them. They've completely burned it over essentially a $15 part.
Well, you have to
I didn't see the whole video. I never saw the whole video. I just saw the 3 or 4 minute version that was on Instagram. So were they just oh, we're out of 9mm takedown levers. We've got extra 10mm. We'll just throw these in the factory. Is that what they think was going on?
So what they were doing is they are getting a lot of their MIM parts from India. This is how I understand it. They're getting a lot of their parts from India in these big bags. And there's nothing that actually tells you or tells you the difference. Can't pronounce words today. Differentiate. That's a professional broadcaster versus podcaster. There's nothing that told the difference between the large frame and the smaller one, and they are close enough in difference. And I wouldn't doubt too if they just went well, these fit and the guns function, put them in there. Why hold up on guns and just put these ones in there? And so that's what led to it, and there could be other little Gray guns give some caveats, like it has to be the different takedown lever and like one or two different things of like a takedown lever spring or like a sear spring or something like that. Like there's a couple things that are common enough to go into occurrence that the guns could go off. Now they did say we haven't found this combination in the wild. We haven't found a gun that could do this, but with these parts put into the gun, this can happen. And here's the other thing, and I think that everyone should probably learn their lesson from this and go away from this, is when you have multi-caliber chassis that come out of guns, probably not the best thing. I mean, all of us have had the experience of putting together a Glock, an 80% lower Glock, or like, I'm going to get this Glock barrel, put this Glock in there, and all of a sudden the gun does not reliably work, and the accuracy is diminished, or tons of problems like that, and it's just like, here it is. Here it is.
Well, you have to think at some point. I mean, Sig saw this happening. I mean, to make any claims otherwise is just false, right? Sig saw this thing happening, and that means that at some point they gathered all the people in a room and they asked the question, "How are we going to handle this?" And there was two answers: either do the right thing, or we double down and we blame everybody else. And obviously, the blame everybody else camp won out. So you now have the actuaries saying, well, we can blame everybody else and it's going to cost us this much money, or we can do the right thing and it's going to cost us this much money. And you just have to know that the people who thought doing the right thing, they probably thought it was going to be more expensive. And so they're like, no, we'll just blame everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only real answer. I mean, there's enough history in the firearms market of seeing companies do the right thing and solve problems moving forward, and to know that, like, hey, this is properly how we handle this. But Sig chose not to. They chose to send out their legion of bootlickers who all wanted just to say there's nothing wrong with these things, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But Sig they've kind of shot themselves in the foot in terms of like the PR on this thing. And I guarantee you at this point, they've spent more money on just trying to PR their way out of this thing than if they had just fixed the damn thing in the first place.
Well, yeah.
Tom, you're a big giant nerd. Didn't Glock have something like this way back in the day?
Glock had several little problems back in the day where they would have some, I don't remember any fire control issues around commanded discharges or stuff like that, but they definitely had like the polygonal barrel, the lawsuits of guys firing lead 45 bullets out of polygonal barrels, clogging them up, blowing them up. They had the issue with the original cases where it would have the pole that went through the trigger guard where you set the case and then people go to the range and then put their gun in there and then it would jostle around and fire. In there they had lawsuits like that, but everyone's have quality controls problems. The original VP9s like wouldn't cycle, so they needed like a heavier recoil spring in the guns.
I would have figured it was just because the bullet was backwards.
Yeah, like there's plenty of guns that have had the problem. Here's the issue that my guest Sig ran into. They didn't have parts to distinguish because they thought like it's all one big old fiery chassis, and then they probably had some rolling changes like, oh, the large frame one's a bigger takedown pin. They didn't change that stuff, and then they were getting these batch quantities and they're just throwing them in every guns, and so they didn't even know what the range was or what guns had what parts in them. And so now they're looking at such a big of a range, and now it's like, oh, well, where did these guns go? Military sector or private sector? What parts? They had no tracking over any of these parts, and so they don't
even have a part number stamped on them.
No, they don't have. I don't even think they have a part number stamped on them. Like this is the deal. Like it was such a cost cutting option on that Sig P320 that they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have any quality control. They didn't have any control of what parts were going where these guns went. And so the answer is carpet bomb all the Sig P320s. And it was like, honestly, I don't think it would come down to the parts cost. My guess is like the RMA tags for next day air FedEx or UPS at $60 per package would have been the big deal.
Yeah.
Like I'm just taking apart my 19 right now that I just unloaded that I was carrying, and like I know like the ejector on the trigger housing has a number stamped on it.
Yep.
There's another part I can think of that definitely has a number
Oh,
stamped on it.
actually, Andy, I can kind of talk to that. Like the CZs, like my OG 17s, they don't. I mean, I have some new ones like from 24, and those things have substantially more stampings, like part number stampings, than my OG guys did.
There's a number right at the back of the cruciform here.
Yeah, on the trigger bar.
That's stamped on it on the trigger bar. Yeah. Yeah, there's numbers stamped on lots of stuff. And I mean, I even figured out I had, I can't remember what part I was trying to put in, and it was the wrong one. Oh, it was a 40 trigger housing that I was putting in a 9mm. Or no, it was the other way around. It was a 9mm I was putting in my 40 gun, and it wasn't ejecting worth a shit because it would just spin around because it was more of a needle on the 9mm one, and the 41 is more of a blade.
Yeah,
and so it was
the ejector.
It wasn't ejecting well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and you can do all sorts of that, but people have numbers for that. They have numbers on the parts that can't go into other guns, and it's just.
But I'm wondering if that's a new thing. Is what I'm saying.
Well,
isn't that new? This Glock is at least 12 years old.
Oh shit!
Like,
well, there you go. Okay,
like,
so there you go. Maybe I'm totally wrong, right? Yeah.
Well,
I guess.
I mean, you would have, like, HK does this a lot with their frames, their slides, their barrels, and all that stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of like control that goes into those because like you want to have like parts ranges, just like serial ranges, that go out to certain companies or go out to certain departments or whatever like that. So like if there's a problem, you can sit there and look and go this to this, bring it back. But you would think this is what makes the SIG one so worse. It's not like, hey, we have recoil springs that disintegrate after 1,000 rounds. It's like, oh shit. Well, like send everyone, have a voluntary upgrade program. They can call us because like most people aren't going to shoot enough ammo to run into this problem anyway. They can call us to do this.
I think that was the Hudson problem. They actually designed parts that they knew were going to fail, but the rationale was that it would fail. Nobody would ever shoot that many rounds to actually get it to fail, and so they didn't care.
Yeah, like most people, like they have a pistol and they shot like 50 to 100 rounds through it.
Right.
Then what you have is the other issue is like, well, what's the severity of the problem? And the severity of the problem was complete catastrophic failure of all safety systems that would prevent the gun from going off. So you have the worst problem with the worst control on it, so you can't actually send them in and get an idea of what people are going to do. And so that problem becomes so big, the thing is just lie. It's like when the problem is so big, your only response is lie.
I'm a big believer in incompetence too. Like I'm a huge believer in incompetence. It also could, I don't think it was, but it also could have been no one could figure it out. Like no one could figure out why it was happening, it's a weird thing. Like there has to be this weird stacking tolerance thing that has to happen with this exact combination of parts. And like, how many different combinations are there, of all those parts?
And
there's a lot.
Especially like the one thing that we all talked about with SIG was the rolling stealth changes. Well, maybe the rolling stealth changes were double. It was a double blinded stealth change. It's like we don't know what parts they are, and we also don't know what parts they are. So it's like we don't know what combination can go in there that caused the guns off. Also, we don't know what parts we put anywhere. So it's just like what combination of this is going on, because like there's differences in the trigger bars, there's differences in the takedown levers, and there's going to be differences in the spring setups or something. So like everything that's kind of different in your Glock 21 versus your Glock 17, in like maybe like a Glock 40 to like a Glock 17, those little minor changes, ejectors, takedown springs, rods, things that would be in there for a different frame or a different caliber, all of a sudden be switched over. It's just like, yep, that would cause an issue regardless of what pistol you sat there and put them in. But if it was causing a safety problem and you're the ones that ship the guns like that, yeah, that would be your fault. Super, super bad news. Good news is that there's no safer P320s being shipped than that are being shipped right now, and they have no problems.
That's the key, right? I'd like a June 2025 model P320.
Yeah,
I don't know if we can get it. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Or just go buy a Glock.
Yeah, you could buy a Glock.
Admittedly. Well,
Yeah.
that's a funny thing is like, I mean, Sig did all this stuff to win the military contract, and Jeff on your show, Andy, he made what I thought was a pretty damn good point. He says like, you have all these other countries, like why the U.S. has to go through all these military trials to prove X, Y, or Z gun, but you have all these countries around there that have been proving the Glock over the course of forever. Why not just use that data? The Glock was a superior firearm by every single metric.
For the same reason, other organizations don't want to use outside people to help solve problems within the organization until the leadership of that organization has mostly completely turned over. And then those sorts of changes can kind of start to happen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down there.
When the people
It was
who
pretty
made
thick.
most of the bad decisions and gaslit everybody are gone or have lost their power, things start getting better. Weird. Anywho's, I got to take off here in a couple minutes, but like, I just sat there and I was on Amazon and it was like, I got to zero a bunch of pistols. I found this thing on there for like $25. This thing is amazing. It's just it's a pistol rest. So you sit.
It looks like a black X. Can you hold it back into light a little more,
There you
like
go.
your window? There, I can see.
There
it
you
now.
go.
So
There you go.
This is
Okay.
this nice little foam, lightweight black X or whatever like that. It's pretty substantially thick. You set it on the table. You get 4 different sizes and 4 different types to hold your pistols or your rifles or whatever to sit there and zero and get a great zero on it. So I was just pleased as punch to grab this. And it was more as a defiance after watching a 47-minute long Travis Haley video, which I wanted to hear them talk about the most convoluted pistol. Like, it's when you want to sound so much, when you want to take a concept and they're like, oh, this is so in-depth, and you got to be so happy that you sat there and talked to us about this, because we're going to talk about all the stuff. We're not actually going to explain this or like bring it out on a ransom rest and like show you the difference. We're going to tell you that things are different and that it's more complicated than you want. And then we're going to shoot for 40 minutes and then like go up there and like tell you all these things about like the targets or whatever like that, and drop, not actually go into it, but just why our targets aren't as good as we want. And then we're going to go back to 15 yards, raise the point of aim, point of impact up 1.5 inches. Then we're going to go back and shoot it and show you that that's like a pretty good pistol zero over a long course of time, or that you could have just done that from the beginning and saved everyone the spot. But my favorite part is, if you don't agree with us, you probably shouldn't carry a gun. And so like I
What do they call them? Engagement hacking grifters.
Engagement hacking grifters.
like there's engagement hacking grifters, but it's completely in the opposite direction. Like it's completely in the opposite direction. Like the engagement hacking grifters, like, hey, huge problem. Also, not as complicated as you think it is. Huge problem. Not as complicated. And then it's just like, well, you guys are the engagement hacking. You're telling people there's no secrets. And you're telling people that things are dangerous that we think are not dangerous because we make money off of them. It's just like, no, like, what's the financial interest? And like people saying, way easier and unsafe.
Yeah,
I watched part of that, and it was like a 25-minute video or however long it was of like, you know what? The sky is green. And we're going to tell you how the sky is green for 25, 30 minutes, whatever this is.
Yeah. And at the end.
And we're right. It's green.
And at the end, but this is why it appears blue. And it's just like, okay.
I'm so smart.
Yeah, because I'm smart, so it's green, but this is why it appears blue. And the reason why it appears blue is if you just adjust your dot 1.5 inches higher, then it appears blue. It's like, why don't you just tell me, forget what the sky looks like, just tell me that the dot needs to be up 1.5 inches, and then like 50-yard shots are easier, and I can deal with it. Or I could just like aim at 15 yards and just shoot like that, and then like have a little higher hold. Like that would have been also very interesting too. Like those things, like it's just, I'm just done with it. I'm just done with all the nonsense. Anyways, Robert.
Well, Dakota and I, we went and shot the Area 1 Steel Challenge match. This was over Memorial Day weekend. Had a great time. Dakota had tons of fun. and that's really what it's kind of come down to at this point. I mean, I was telling the match directors, like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of doing this for Dakota because he's enjoying it. And
Yeah.
I think, and he shot all of his stages. He didn't have any problems with his cheap ass little MP 1522, and like no malfunctions at all. It was awesome. And when you're at his level, I think that's the hallmark of a win for him, is because like the gun just ran and he had a great time, and you can tell that he's starting to get better because now he's starting to complain about how he's shooting the stage. Like when he first started, he's like, man, that was just fun. And now as he's shot more and more matches, he's like, well, I could have shot that better. I was just
Yeah.
too slow on that.
Yes.
I'm like,
You know,
it's
he
okay,
loves it
buddy.
when the self-loathing comes in.
Yeah,
like, I
that's
hate myself.
That's when you're into the match where it's just like every
Yeah.
good stage is just like, you know what, freak, I'm fantastic. My penis is 7 inches long. Life is amazing. And then you have a bad stage. You're just like, everyone fucking hates me. I'm a bad dad. I should quit this. Like, what am I doing with my life? You're just like, it's just like you're just having this catastrophic problem. But here's where I would argue with you, Robert. The gun working completely through the match is the hallmark of a professional that's out here shooting. Because like, if all of us could be like, listen, you're gonna take 2 deltas, but your gun's gonna work for all 6 stages. People would be like, I can fight past 2 deltas. I can fight past 2 deltas. I can shoot that. But it's just like some guys out there and people who are listening to the show, you understand. You would take that trade because you can't get your gun to work because your gun's special and fancy and you've made it that way. So
we were so lucky the very first match he shot, being on a squad, and I'm not talking shade about these other people. It just was a good learning experience for him. But we had a father and a daughter that were there, and they were shooting, and both of their guns just went to Jesus. It was just terrible. Like they couldn't get those 22s to run for nothing. And halfway through the match, we let them use Dakota's gun, and they had great results and Dakota came away from that without being able to articulate it, but basically with this understanding of a gun that works is 10 times more fun than a gun that it doesn't.
Yeah, like we have thousands and thousands of matches under our belt collectively. Raise your hand if you've had one match where not one malfunction happened to any member on your squad.
That awkward silence is a no.
Yeah, like we have 10 people here, and we have to get through 2,000 rounds today without one malfunction.
I bet it has happened, but I don't remember it. Like everybody at least has like one round that just doesn't go in, and you like quick rack and it's over. But like, gal, not that I remember. Now I'm going to pay attention to that next time I shoot a match.
Yeah,
if we go through and no one has a malfunction.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to do, especially like there's probably other professions that use handguns that probably have a higher rate, but we're special and we make our guns better, so therefore we have a higher rate of malfunctions, even though we're putting in quote unquote better parts. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, like poor Zach. I mean, like all year he's been fighting with his Infinity gun. And it's just being mean to him. And finally, I think he just finally got to the point. I think he actually is like, I'm changing guns. I'm going to go find something that actually works. And I mean, I think every one of us who have ever had to like go through a series of matches where the gun's just not working. I mean, you just go through this, like, is it me? Is it the gun? Is it this? And it's just, it takes the fun out of the shooting aspect. And eventually you get back to the place of like, well, there's this Shadow 2, and all I have to do is just go shoot it. Maybe change the recoil spring or the hammer spring, but man, a gun that works is pretty nice.
Yep. No, it's the best thing ever. I have to jet. I'm gonna leave you guys to do the questions from the fine people, and then Andy can talk about current issues in USPSA. So, God bless.
Do I have to?
You might have to. All right.
All right, just upload your stuff later on.
Will do.